Hello, everyone, including Ryan in chat already. I'm Felicia Rondo, and that's close over there.
Heyo.
And this is another edition of our Bit Silly Book Club, with all the comics and whatnot that we've read and that we're sharing with you all our thoughts about it.
Very
Today,
simply put.
indeed. And today we're looking at issue 52, which marks the return of Evan Stanley as writer of the main series. After the past two issues where Ian
Issue
Flynn...
52 of Sonic the Hedgehog.
Sorry, yeah, issue 52 of Sonic the Hedgehog, as you can see on the screen here.
It is on screen, but I feel like we should vocalize it.
We should say it. Maybe someone tapped away and didn't see the title of the stream. Anyway, but yeah, for the past two issues, for people who haven't been keeping up, longtime writer Ian Flynn came back to the main series to finish up a long form, or not finish up. I'm sorry, continue very unfulfillingly a continue that had started with his miniseries that he'd also been doing for the past few months, Imposter Syndrome, which introduced the characters of Surge the Tenrec and Kit the Fennec. And
one of which is on the cover that is on screen now.
Yeah.
That one's Kit.
And if you caught our last two reviews of the main series issues, not the annual. That was all right, but not the main series. If you caught our last two reviews of the main series, you probably know that we didn't like them. They were bad. They were bad comics. The issue 50 was one of the worst Sonic comics I've ever read, and issue 51 was one of the most useless Sonic comics I've ever read. Just completely useless. I think we could have just had this issue.
Honestly, like, if you remove 51, you're not really losing anything.
If anything, you're gaining a better reintroduction to Surge after the events of issue 50. So, yet more confirmation. Just skip it.
Yeah.
Like, it's in the story so far. I'm kind of skipping ahead, but like in the story so far page, all it shows us is them attempting to escape and failing for issue 51, and then Sonic being kind of hurt, which I don't think really came up in this issue. Did it? Like it was drawn better. Him being his foot being hurt.
Any attention, like, it was drawn at all.
Mm-hmm.
So, like, should we just get into the comic?
I guess we should.
Comic itself.
But first we have the cover by Gigi Dutre. Not her best work, I would say.
No.
The layout just isn't very impressive.
I'm personally not a fan of any of the three covers that this particular issue has.
Yeah, if I had to pick a favorite, I'd probably pick Jennifer Hernandez, because it's just sweet.
Yeah.
Even if it is a bit saccharine for some tastes.
It just looks a bit wonky to me. The way the characters are drawn, they just look a bit off to me.
Fair enough.
That kind of detracts, because I like cute things, but
yeah.
Yeah.
But this cover A, it just feels like it doesn't really work. It doesn't really work, and that's unfortunate. Gigi's definitely done better covers elsewhere, and I hope she keeps getting work. But like into the comic, we have the credits with story and art. I mean, it says art, but there's inkers here, so she's the penciler. Evan Stanley. Yeah. With inks by Rick Mack and Maria Keene. Colors by Reggie Graham, who does a good job. No ill-fated print texture experimentation here.
Mm-hmm.
Lettering by Sean Lee, which it was fun lettering. And there was like a fun moment in the lettering that I enjoyed. So thanks, Sean Lee, for that. Editors Riley Farmer and David Marriott, and it was released on August 24th, 2022. I'm looking at our scene now again. And like I mentioned before, the story so far page is like everything important is from issue 50. Everything That is unimportant. It's from issue 51. You don't need to read that comic. Just go from 50 to 52 if you must read issue 50.
But speaking of 51, where we were left off last time, was that the blimp or whatever that our Sonic Apprentice has commandeered had been brought down by Metal Sonic tackling it. A soft cushion had fallen onto Sonic's left foot, leaving him terribly injured. And Kit was suspended from the ceiling somehow.
In this,
as we return, we find Metal Sonic towering over everyone. Sonic's foot is now noticeably scuffed up, with his sock having taken some damage. Truly, that cushion must have hit him with some seriously nasty static electricity. And in page 2, because there's no dialogue or particular accent, just Metal Sonic looming above everyone in page 1.
It's an effective page, but moving on.
It's an establishing thought. But, in page 2, we see that Tails must go and rescue Kit because he is, in fact, on the ground, buckled into his seat, of course, where we left him last issue. What I'm saying is that as we have been bringing up, as we've been going through the various comics around this Imperial City we're in, there's not a lot of continuity in the art.
I have to assume, Evan was working off an earlier draft of issue 51 with this.
Or, I mean, even that, I don't know,
There's just, we just get the distinct impression with these comics, between these two writers, that there's not enough communication happening.
Yeah, I don't really know why there is just, because it's not just in and around Imperial City that we've had these these inconsistencies. There were a number of inconsistencies in the interlacing of Evan's stories with imposter syndrome. In particular, the end of Trial by Fire depicted a very different way that the fire was started, with a lightning strike to a tree, rather than
getting a bunch of fucking leaves and spinning them around. Was that what happened? I don't know.
It was something like that. They took a bunch of dry leaves and they set that on fire, and it was like, it's like I don't know why there are all these details that just seemingly aren't being discussed, or that consistency isn't being enforced in some way by the editors.
Because the editors are seeing all of this.
Yeah, it's going by their desks, everything, every time. It's kind of their job to make sure it all fits together, and I feel like they're really kind of letting the comic down in that regard.
Yeah, we have two editors here, and it doesn't seem like it's helping the continuity very well. Yeah.
And there were other various smaller and bigger, mess-ups. I mean, just recently there's been the fact that Imperial City's appearance has not been terribly consistent.
It is not.
There are these large spires, and the fact that they are large and they come to a point is about the only consistent thing.
Yeah, everything else seems to change about them, every quality that they once had.
Because I believe when we first saw them, they were very smooth and pointy and kind of looked like Christmas trees. And then later we saw them, and they were more like naturalistic rock spires.
Yeah.
Gem spires. And then when we saw them, I think in 51, they looked like they were made of gray stone rather than any of the bright colors they had. Yeah. And I think we see hints of them in this issue, and they're back to how they looked when we first saw them.
A little bit, yeah.
But there's just very little, and it's the thing is they're kind of the most eye-catching, the most distinct element of Imperial City.
Yeah.
And the fact that the most distinctive recognizable element, the one artistic element that like makes this look different from other Eggman bases hasn't been consistent.
Yeah. Hey Freyo in
It's kind of
chat,
noticeable.
who is chastising himself for being 10 minutes late. It's okay. It's okay, Freyo. We're only on page 2 because we're talking about the continuity errors.
Yeah.
Oh, but it is a bit frustrating. How this comic is not doing as well at that, because it just further cements like how much it feels like there are two comics.
Mm-hmm.
When Ed Union's writing, it's that comic. When Evan's writing, it's that comic. Especially when I wish we just had the comic we get when Evan's writing it. I wish we didn't have also the very inconsistent comic that Ian provides.
Yeah. Definitely, you feel it a lot both when there is a writer switch, like now, and very much when like there was interplay in between Imposter Syndrome and the main series, where
Mm-hmm.
Anytime a thing got depicted, Evan has a completely different and, in my opinion, better stylistic sense,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
and it really it's very noticeable.
It is.
But
It's not hard to pick them apart, those two.
yeah.
So
But here in this comic,
mm-hmm.
yeah, so Metal Sonic charges up for another big electric tackle.
Mm-hmm. And Sonic's like, not good, we gotta move.
But Tails is like, wait, Cat, who is just seemingly waking up from having been unconscious from when Tails definitely didn't almost kill him.
Yeah.
Earlier.
Mm-hmm. Don't worry about it. He says, "Zuh."
Mm-hmm. Tails unbuckles the child, whirs up his tail, and rushes off, pushing Sonic forward as Sonic is having a bad foot.
Mm-hmm. A bad foot day.
Mm-hmm.
Sonic points that way in the next page. He won't be able to get up to full speed in there.
Yeah, and they go to...
Like an alleyway.
Yeah, the speech bubble is on it, so
Mm-hmm.
you don't see it very well. But they get into amongst these green buildings. Kit is sort of being carried along by first Tails and then Belle.
Belle's doing her best.
Yeah. And Tails, he didn't get a great look. Freyo in chat mentions they like the detail of Sonic's suit cuff being torn up.
Yeah, because something did happen to his foot, and it's good when it gets drawn.
Yeah, and like in this panel, he's like favoring his right foot and keeping his left up, and like, his leg is all scuffed up, and there's any effort being attempted on this injury that Sonic allegedly received in 51 that we didn't get to see in 51.
Yeah.
But yeah, Tails remembers a bit of the layout of the city, and he figures that if they take a left up ahead, they should be headed towards the wall.
Only for Metal.
Only for Metal to come crashing into the wall, crashing into the next wall, and looking very menacing.
If I may, I've been rereading Ghosts of the Future, and Karash is the sound effect that Evan used to denote Knuckles crashing through a wall, or Sinbad anyway. In which just it's fun.
It's the sound effect for busting through a wall.
Yeah.
And Tails notes, not left. Definitely not left.
It's a very fun panel.
Yeah. They take off not to the left.
Yes.
And as they are running, Belle looks back and pleads with Metal, saying, "Stop, please. You don't have to do this." Metal does not stop and continues to do this.
Mm-hmm. And Sonic.
Yeah, Sonic is being carried along by Tails.
Yes.
Rather than running himself.
And then he says, "Tails, give me a boost."
And Tails flies up to there's like a bunch of barrels and trash.
And then
suspended.
Sonic
above.
winds up his good leg and then uses it to kick down the boxes and barrels. And knocks out metal for a bit.
Pressing down onto metal.
It's a very dynamic bit of action here.
Mm-hmm.
Sonic has one good leg and he uses it.
Yeah.
In the next page, Sonic is exhausted and he's like, "Phew, that just slow him down." And
Tails recognizes the crystals
mm-hmm.
being we're sort of in a place near some smaller green crystals.
Yeah.
Which are connected to the larger ones.
Freya writes in chat, "OMG, that Sonic voice is perfect." Thanks, Freya. But yeah.
And as he's trying to plan out, get a little interrupted by Belle having trouble with this rambunctious
baby.
boy.
Look, I love this overhead shot where he's just like he looks like a little baby. He's having a tantrum.
Yeah. And he's flailing his limbs.
Yeah.
She's trying to hold him, and he
elbows
her in the nose, which goes honk. Because, as we know from previous, he has a funny clown nose.
Yeah.
And that sends them both falling to the ground.
Freya writes honk in chat. Thank you.
Very good. Tails tries to reassure Kit that no one's going to hurt him,
mm-hmm.
but Kit is very distraught because he does not know where Surge is.
Yeah, he's crying.
Yeah, and he needs to find her, and
for all they know...
Mm-hmm. Currently the heroes are under the belief that Surge was, killed. Well, died, anyway. Killed by falling rock.
Yeah.
Falling rocks, and definitely not anything darker that had to get edited out because this is a children's comic.
Yeah. Not edited out well, but edited out.
And then Kit says that he's been gone too long and she'll be so angry.
Also want to mention there's a thoom. And in the thoom with lettering by Sean Lee, like the M in thoom is like pointing at this dark corner.
It's very fun. Yeah. As the M like curls around to turn into a pointing arrow.
Yeah.
And points into the alleyway from whence the sound effect is emerging.
Yeah, but Sonic is noticing the dire situation they're in, and so he takes matters into his own hands. Okay, this is a big ask, but Metal Sonic is coming, and fast. Out of all of us, you're the only one who can stop him from turning us into lunch meat. And Kit stammers, only for Sonic to continue. "We're out of time, Kit. You can use those wacky water powers of yours to make Metal severely regret his life choices. You in?"
Kit haltingly reaches out for Sonic and takes Sonic's hand and says, "Yes, sir."
"Nice. Thank you," says Sonic. And I just like, I don't know if this was the exact intention, but I like to think that Sonic was trying to channel Surge.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And I think it worked.
Yeah, I mean, Kit's definitely responding appropriately.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
But see, Kit's flood is empty.
Yeah.
He hasn't been able to stand in any water and go in a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
So he's gonna need some water.
Yeah.
Yeah. Tails starts to examine it and is like, "Oh, it holds a pressurized reservoir, right? Gonna need a lot of liquid."
And then we have a really cute panel.
Because when Kid is mentioning he needs water, we see Belle looking off to the side, and see leaves, and then there's Tails and Kit both looking very surprised as we see the iconic click ding sound effect.
Yes.
And ka-tang,
Yeah.
indicating that Belle has pulled her tail and gotten her action figure accent in.
Yeah. She's just
And then she's just standing with her one leg outstretched, having somehow kicked 3 pipes apart.
It's funny.
This a ridiculous amount of damage from one kick.
Yes.
A comical level of destruction. And Kit is giddily running towards the water and sucking it up into his pack.
Yeah. Oh, but here comes Metal Sonic with a boom sound effect. Yeah. He's doing a sonic boom.
Yeah, and crunching through that alleyway.
Sonic tells Kit, "You got this, Kit!"
And as Tails flies Sonic out of the way, as Sonic is hurt.
Yeah, and also water. Ah!
Kit gets his dramatic, evil, glowy eyes on.
Yes.
Wraps his water tentacles around Metal and does a big water and cracks a crystal nearby and sends that tumbling down onto Metal. And just as the green is about to collapse onto Metal, we smash cut to something else smashing down onto something.
Whack!
It's Surge's fist.
And what I wish was the real introduction of reintroduction of Surge being alive. As she shouts, "Gah! This isn't gonna stop me. I will not be thrown away like some piece of..." And she's like just trying to like climb up on this trash and just is looking so frustrated.
Yeah, because he's here back down in the trash heap, which is where she fell after her battle.
And I noticed just she's very upset here. She's very upset, and I want to draw a point of comparison with the previous issue that we read, and people following along this comic will have just read. In issue 52, let me just pull this up here. Sorry,
is 52.
51. Let me pull that up here. We cut back to Surge, and she's like in a pile. She's like, and then she's like, "Okay, recover from near losing experience, get an edge, find more power, something. Third, grind that blue scumbug into the dirt." She looks all like, "Yeah, nailed it." But here she's just like very, very just caught in like this maelstrom of like anger and like all that, and it's like,
yeah, and like she's currently being stymied by just slippery trash.
Yeah,
it's hard to climb up Trash Mountain, and she's just frustrated.
It's just a better you just look at her after the...
It feels like she's hit rock bottom, which, given that she has literally fallen into the garbage incinerator,
yes,
I feel like she should feel like she's hit rock bottom.
Yes. But she climbs on top of Garbage Mountain and says, "Ha! Finally!" Only for the rumble of the trash compactor thing to...
Yeah, some kind of trash disposal robot starts grumbling over the Trash Mountain pile.
She gets out of its way.
Scattering garbage everywhere, including a very familiar-looking glove.
Starline's glove with the Hypno stuff and the Tricor slots.
Yeah, I think the Tricor is there but crack.
But Search sees it just flying in the wind and then just grabs it and just says, "Starline's glove. There's no way you let it go unless..." I guess Eggman was more than he could handle. I'm finally free, right? And we have this like shot of her, this close up shot after the first panel where she's just looking at the glove and just not looking like she feels free.
Yeah.
Only for the expression on her face to harden as she says, "Doesn't matter. He was weak. I can do better. I will. Before throwing it away, and as we watch the glove be burnt.
Yeah, he like tosses it onto, I guess, somewhere near the incinerator that we saw earlier. It's a bit vague as to exactly why it's on fire to me, but
yeah,
it's a powerful image of it going up in flames.
In the next page.
Also, for those not remembering how this glove got to be here, as a reminder, Eggman ripped it off of Starline and threw it aside at the end of their fight.
Yeah.
I'm still under the belief that Starline is completely alive, and we'll probably see him at the end of this storyline.
Mm-hmm. In the next page, Surge says, I will get out of this. She climbs up with more determination. I'll get better, stronger. And then she leaps and grabs onto the bottom of like some cylindrical pipe thing.
Yeah.
And while hanging off of it...
which we later learn is just like one of many trash disposal tubes connected to the city above.
And while hanging off of it, she just says with this really bitter, like, sad look on her face, I do more than Starline could even imagine. And it's here that we see Surge has a new purpose.
Mm-hmm.
She won't admit it, but it doesn't feel good now that Starline's finally dead. And a part of that hurts her. And now she wants to do like even more than Starline could even imagine. Like, in some ways, just continuing the mission that he set her on.
Mm-hmm.
And this is just such a complex, like, subtle, like, character moment for me.
Yeah, and honestly, like, all her emotions and expressions and words, there's a lot of different ways you could interpret it. A lot of different, like, ideas and thoughts you could imagine her going through her head.
Yeah.
Which, you know, I think, you know, when a story does that, it can be very effective, because you can see into Surge's actions and words and beyond them to think about what her true, real thoughts are.
It, I guess it works out that, like, Evan's taking over after this life-changing event happens in Surge's life, because when Ian was writing Surge, if you don't mind me just going over just this...
No, yeah.
When Ian was writing Surge, she was very just what you see is what you get, just very angry, very upfront, very just saying whatever comes to her mind. She could not be subtle if she tried.
Mm-hmm.
She can barely manage to keep Starline under the belief that, like, they're definitely just going with whatever he does. But, like, she's a very, very standard, very simple character in the beginning. But after this traumatic event, there's more going on underneath the surface now. There's more just complexity. And that's due to Evan being a more nuanced writer than Ian. Yeah. She's better at handling nuance and depicting it than he really has displayed capacity for. And I did enjoy how Surge was ultimately written in the miniseries. Not so much in issue 50 and 51 certainly, but it definitely shows how much better Evan is at, like, just deeper, more meaningful characterization as we get this look at Surge in this comic. It's very It's been quite a ride for me reading Surge in these comics, but this is very impressive.
Yeah.
In the next page,
we find Cubot,
Mm-hmm.
who's searching for duct tape.
The boss has got to have some duct tape in here somewhere. Only
But,
to hear
he
some...
starts hearing a thunk clunk that happened after a katunk. And as he goes to investigate, he hears a thunk.
Is something there? This is probably the sort of thing Orba would tell me not to mess with. Hello?
He lifts up, or lifts down rather, the
little trash hatch, only for
a hand to come out and grab him by the throat.
Bro!
Well, the robotic neck, anyway.
Yes. And Surge says, looks like I just hit the jackpot.
And she's about to go on a date with Mary Jane now.
Yeah, so that's pretty great. I remember when we first read this issue, you mentioned that this would have been a great thing to end issue 51 with.
Honestly, if issue 51 had no Surge in it except for just the contents of this page, that would have been a way better way to point out that she's alive after issue 50. It would have been dramatic. It would have been a great thing to end the issue on. Yeah. And then you could have just cut back to her being in the garbage for this issue and just do the stuff with Surge in this issue.
Mm-hmm. And related to our little Spider-Man reference, I mean, it has been proven you can end a comic on looks like you just hit the jackpot.
Yeah.
They did that with Spider-Man and Mary Jane. It could work.
Yeah. And I just want to point out, because Evan is, of course, a writer-artist, so but part of the storytelling, when you have a writer-artist, is the art. That's something that they're deliberately putting in, and it's... Mm-hmm. Yeah, a writer can tell an artist to put things in, but I feel like it's different. It's much more direct when the writer is doing it. So I just want to point out that they're in like a storage room of some kind, and there's little signs saying model kit and office supplies, but above office supplies in brackets, evil also office supplies.
Also a box that just says Cyber Brains.
Just a cardboard box of, I guess, computer chips or something. Cyber Brains.
Yeah.
But Surge climbs out of the garbage suit.
She climbs out of the garbage, yeah. Nice. About time I had some good luck. And then Cubot makes an adorable little threat. When I get out of here, you're gonna be sorry! I know 16 ways to break a man's neck!
And he can put none of them into practice.
Yes. And Surge says, while inspecting a gun, cute, but not my style. But initially, when reading this, I thought she was responding to Cubot, and just being like, cute, but not my type. But, no, she's talking about the gun, and she says, do you have anything a little more...
I guess was in the evil office supplies box, because that was the open crate.
Yes. And she says, do you have anything a little more hands-on? Ooh. And she sees just a pile of...
very conspicuous on a desk in the back, without anything else around it, highlighted by a lamp.
Yeah!
Just a lamp on it. I mean, probably because it was being worked on, but it's very funny, just the amount of... like, oh wow, look at this power-up item.
Hello, beautiful. Who are you? Surge says.
And what it is, it's a bit odd, but basically 2 red spiky bracelets similar to the black spiky bracelets he's already wearing. A red spiky collar, and they're connected by wires with like little orbs that would presumably show electricity running through them, like little glass orbs in between the wires. And it's very clearly the kind of thing that was not in-universe designed for Surge, but was absolutely created out of universe for the express purpose of Surge putting it on and nothing else.
Yeah. And in this page, we have some more Surge making threats, but like whenever she made threats in imposter syndrome, it felt really forced and like not like cool, even acknowledging how much of an edgelord that Surge is. But in this issue, Surge says, "Robot, what is this thing?" And Cubot is like, "My voice chips are sealed." Only for Surge to say, "They're gonna be in little pieces on the floor if you don't." And then Cubot is like, "Ah, wait, I can't live like that again."
We all remember his many problems with voice tip.
Yes. So, he explains, "It's the dynamo cage! The boss has been messing around with it for a while now. It's used to harness energy, like from wisps. Doesn't matter if they want to give you their powers or not, the cage can suck it right up, no problem. I don't think he's worked out all the oof." He's probably talking about all the kinks.
Yeah. All the issues that will certainly come up as Surge goes to use this over the next several issues.
Yes.
That if she just stopped to listen,
but
maybe she could have disregarded all those warnings anyway.
she just drops Cubot to the ground and is like, "Okay, shut up now. I get the picture."
And she puts those bracelets on in place of her current ones, and sticks the big collar one in place of the little hair tie she's got.
Yeah.
It's got big spikes on either end.
And it's fun. It's fun.
Yeah. It would honestly... It's the kind of thing that's clearly not a permanent change, but I think if there wasn't for all the big wires, it would be a neat look.
Yeah.
Switching from the black to the red and then adding the two big spikes on the sides.
Yes. We cut back to Sonic and the others.
Yeah. They have arrived at the wall, and they're looking out over the Imperial City, where we can see the big crystals that are all very pointy and smooth again. Tails deposits Kit down on the ground, and telling him that, "Hang on, I'll be back in a second."
And his face is all in shadow.
Oh yeah, that little Kit face.
Yeah.
And Tails goes to return to Sonic and Belle, who are still on top of the wall.
Yeah.
But for the moment, they are just having a bit of a moment together.
Yeah.
Belle is looking very tired and says, "Finally, can't wait to get out of here."
And Sonic remarks, "For now. The longer the city stands, the more Eggman's gonna wreck." And then, boom. Right on time, Sonic remarks. And as we see from afar, a big explosion with Metal Sonic, no doubt, pursuing. Sonic says,
and we see all the shards of shards of green crystal that were dropped on Metal Sonic.
Yes.
Flying apart.
As Sonic says, "You gotta admire his persistence." And
we see a very wet Metal Sonic.
Yeah.
Revving up his engine, getting ready.
Yeah. And
Bella's worried.
And Sonic tells her, "Stay behind me, okay?" But as
we cut in deep close to Metal's eye, it goes.
Yeah.
And he's charging forward, covered in energy. But then, to Sonic's surprise, Belle gets in front of Sonic.
Yeah. And Metal has to stop.
Metal stops on a dime.
Yeah.
Before he makes contact with her.
In a really explosive panel with like just the exhaust, like the flames, just like having to propel him away, like because of the momentum he had.
Yeah, all that energy just dispersing in a big thing. Belle, trying to look brave but also having a sweat drop on her face, says, "If you want to get to him, you have to go through me."
And throughout this comic, Belle has been trying to get Metal to not be a bad boy, to be good like her, and she wants him to subvert his programming. And
his very programming that just stopped him from attacking because C is registered as a friendly in his targeting database.
And for a moment, Metal stops. And
Bell holds up a hand towards Metal as well as a hand towards Sonic, indicating for them both to stop. And she says, "See, you don't." And then Metal coldly backhands her.
With like a line over his right eye, like it does kind of take a bit out of him.
Yeah, because again, Bell is registered as a friendly.
And he subverts his programming specifically to hurt her.
Yeah. Showing that he has full capacity to do so. Metal is able to overcome his programming in the way that, Omega did. But, yeah, his loyalties remain unchanged.
Sonic remarks, "Bell! That was low, buddy," Sonic says. And says, "Fine, let's get this over with. Only for a big kaboom to happen." And Sonic to react, "Whoa!" And then he takes up the opportunity to snark at Metal, saying, "Looks like trouble. Better run back to Daddy Dearest and make sure he's okay, huh?"
We see smoke rising up from around the central tower of the Imperial City behind Metal, as there are many lines around Metal's left eye.
Yes.
Showing clear distress and probably anger at the situation before Metal zooms up, leaving Sonic literally in his death.
And then Sonic turns to Bell, saying, "You okay?" Bell doesn't say anything.
Yeah, she has ellipses and looks very distraught at what just happened.
And in the next panel, her face is in shadow.
Yeah. And Tails also flies up to comically say, "What happened? We heard the explosion!"
And then Sonic says, "Metal gave us a little send-off, but had to bounce early. Looks like something's up at the main tower." That's Eggman's problem, though. And we cut to Eggman.
Yeah. Who's waving the smoke away. And saying, "Cubot, if you touch any of my prototypes, I swear I'm going to turn you into a rice cooker."
Only for Surge to say, "Sorry, that was me."
And Eggman goes, "Eh?" And we cut to see her connected up to the doohickeys and all filled with electricity.
And I just like to point out that, like, as far as people that Surge hates goes, she hates Starline for taking her life away and torturing her and brainwashing her. And she hates Sonic for being the guy she was groomed to destroy. Eggman, like, ultimately, he was always like you're just the
He was the motivator. Like, I think she kind of holds him not as much animosity as Sonic, but similar, since like it was Sonic and Eggman that motivated Starline to concoct the entire plan. Yeah.
And if he just died before, then it wouldn't have happened.
Yeah. But, Thirds has a remark.
Yeah. Ooh, yeah. This is gonna be fun. And next time is Surge Unplugged, where she goes on MTV to play on an acoustic guitar.
Yeah, she's actually more plugged in than she's ever been, so I don't know, next time little thing. That Surge is actually pretty never mind.
But, like, I was just trying to make the point, like, maybe part of her just being so just excited to do this is because she mused that Eggman killed Starline. But anyway, that's the issue.
Yeah.
I really like this issue.
It's really good. So something we discussed prior to reviewing this over here for y'all is that Felisa definitely took this issue more than I did because I'm more. I feel like I'm still burnt out on this story from 50 and 51 being really bad. For me, Evan, like this issue has been Evan basically salvaging this storyline, and I think I still need some salvaging to be done for me. And we'll see how 53 next month goes. I did enjoy it, but certainly my general opinion on this storyline has just been soured.
It has. I mean, they really, our faith as readers has really been shaken by issues 50 and 51. They weren't good issues at all.
Because Imposter Syndrome, I want to reiterate, Imposter Syndrome really impressed me.
I was impressed by Ian.
I remember we got a weird person in our mentions on Twitter who was, I don't know, upset that we were enjoying something Ian wrote because they decided that because we had disliked his stories in the past, we weren't allowed to like his stories now. But, like, no, Imposter Syndrome was good, though.
It was.
That's why issue 50 was such a disappointment, is that it felt like it really didn't deliver on any of the promise of Imposter Syndrome.
When Ian writes a good story, we will like it. When he writes a bad story, we will call it out because we... This may be a difficult concept for Ian's fans to grasp, but, like, I have any respect for him.
Yeah. Also, you know, to Ian's haters, which I don't consider myself one because I have more in my life than hating on a comic book writer.
It's whatever.
You know, I feel like that probably could have described me in the past, but, like, I don't want to be a person defined by my hatred of other things. You know?
Me neither. It's just a bad place.
That's, you know, I've made a choice to be a better person, and part of that is not fixating on the things I don't like when I could be focusing on the better things. And that's not to say that fixating on bad things in the world is bad. It's just like a writer writing comics I don't like isn't an evil in the world to have to be focused on. It's not racism. It's, you know...
Yeah.
It's not the wage gap.
It's not. It's not the waste dump. It's not the Angel Grove waste dump. Freya writes in chat, it's always good to find ways to be a better and more constructive person, and I agree.
Yeah. I'm always trying to be better because I figure if you can make yourself a better person, then that means that you can do better to help others. You know, anytime you're able to help others, you also need to do that part.
Yeah.
Improving yourself, I always say, I like to say, rather, is step 0.
Yes.
Step 1 is actually helping other people. But,
yeah.
You know, you do need to have a foundation to start from. Like, you need to make sure that you are, you know, it's like the maxim of how, like, you have to make sure that you're fed and clothed and housed before you can have the resources to help other people to be fed and clothed and housed.
Yeah.
You know, it's like, if you don't take care of yourself, then you're going to burn yourself out trying to help others, because that's basic. And, you know, it's similar to that, but just with ethics. If you don't have a strong ethical foundation, then it's harder for you to help others and be productive, because you can hurt by trying to help if you don't know what you're doing.
Yeah.
But next month, Serge is gonna drink a lot of Gatorade.
Yeah. And just gonna get on MTV. And play on a good acoustic guitar.
The next month cover, which is a cover we've seen for a while now because of how far in advance these things get revealed online.
Yeah.
So Serge wreathed in electricity and attacking Whisper!
Whisper's back!
Whisper, who has been gone from the comic for so long.
Almost 10 issues. Closer to 10 issues than 5. Counting the flashback, I mean.
I mean, the flashback was barely a cameo.
Yeah. Freya writes in chat, Whisper! One of my favorite IDW characters.
She's real good. Mm-hmm. I think we might not see her with Tangle in this story arc, but I'm hoping that those two get to reunite and maybe have a nice kiss together soon.
Yeah.
Issue 75. Big old gay kiss. That'll be your event. That.
Yes. Finally, God. But yeah. This is Evan back, and I am glad. I'm very glad that we could have this good food. And I'm looking forward to next issue, where Evan will be building on her previous issue.
Rather than, in my opinion, having to salvage what came before from just two failures of issues. You know?
Two failures in a row. One more catastrophic, the other just defeating in its pointlessness.
51 just felt like such a waste. So little, and a lot more happened. You know, things happened this time.
Yeah.
There was things to talk about. It definitely didn't help that, like, some of the things that happened in 51 was just retreading 50.
Yeah.
Whereas here, I feel like we're doing new things with every page rather than recapping old things. We're moving through the story. We're making progress. We're doing things.
Character moments are happening, as opposed to none. But yeah, I'm definitely looking forward to next issue. Evan, I trust. We trust Evan here. Evan is a good writer. Period. For this comic, she is the best.
Yeah.
I was gonna say she is the best writer on this comic thus far.
And I do want to be clear, like, when we talk about best writer in comic, we're talking in particular about the main series, because while the various, like, annual stories, you might like one or the other, it's a very different practice writing a short story in one of the anthology annuals as opposed to writing a story arc.
Yes.
In fact, we'll only be up to the third writer on this comic who's written an arc as of Scrapnik Island.
Yeah, with Daniel Barnes.
Which will be the first time that a miniseries on this comic has been written by anyone who is not Ian Flynn.
And I'm just gonna say, Daniel Barnes in both the annual and that marks the first black writer in this whole comic. And I would just like to say, I checked. Archie Sonic took about as long. It got to it a little bit earlier, though. Got to having its first black writer a little earlier than IDW Sonic in the year of our fucking Lord, 2018 through 2022. Just decades later. Took longer.
Yeah. And Daniel Barnes will still be in a miniseries and not actually on the main series. And so the main series will still only have had 2 white writers. Going into 2023.
And I just want to say something, because it's been made abundantly clear, in this comic series that it is made by Sonic fans for Sonic fans. The fans are making this comic, so don't you worry about the quality. It's going to be great because it's the fans working on it.
Seem to only hire fans and popular YouTubers at one time.
Yeah. Fans and/or the McElroys. But,
yeah, they're marketable. They can get us to sell extra issues, right? If we put their name on it?
Maybe 12 new issues. Anyway, but, like, and just, like, it's this whole, like, oh, the fans are working on it, and they know what they're doing. That's the general reasoning behind it. It's like, oh, if we just got comic book writers, professionals to do this, then and not to say that there aren't professionals working on IDW Sonic, there are.
Yeah.
But like just if we get these enthusiasts, these Sonic fans to work on this comic, then they'll know what they're doing. They'll draw these characters right. They'll write them correctly. They understand these characters on a level that not even Sonic Team does, because they are the fans. And it's this whole this whole mythology that fans have created around this comic, where it's so inspiring. It's so inspiring that the comics are being done by fans. The fans are going to work on the franchise, and I just want to say, because all this is built around the idea that the fans can do it better, and the fans are the best candidates for the role. I don't think this is a very meritocratic model.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think this is manifested in a way that is what they are claiming it is, because there are Black Sonic fans, there are non-white Sonic fans, there are and until Gail Galligan for the Free Comic Book Day and 30th anniversary special, there were only white writers, as far as I can recall. I remember it being a big deal. Like, I looked and I noticed, like, Gail Galligan was the first. And now we're...
I think Daniel Barnes might be the second non-white writer.
Yeah.
You know, there have been non-white artists.
Mm-hmm.
There have been, you know, several black artists working on the comic, but...
Being a writer gives you a voice.
Yeah, a literal voice in that your words are put onto the page. The writer has the most creative freedom and the creative control because, I mean, it's the writer who tells the artist what to do and what to draw.
And I just think if Sonic fans are going to if Sonic fans are going to spend all this, kick up all this fuss of like, oh, the fans are working on this one, it's better than those cringe Archie comics, because this is Sonic fans working on it now. These are the fans. This is the fandom. Why doesn't it look like the fandom then? Mm-hmm. Why doesn't it look like the fandom? Why doesn't it look like just? Why does it look like only one kind of fan gets to do this dream come true, working on the franchise and writing it? I don't. That's all I'm asking. If it's such a step up from how it was done before, where if you had the connections, if you knew the right people, you could get on as a professional comic writer, as opposed to if you knew about Sonic enough, which
I mean, let's be honest, if you're Ian Flynn's friend, like Evan Stanley, then that gives you a real good chance of getting onto this comic.
And I don't like that. I don't like that cliquish, like just this insular group of like, if you're in this friend group, you're on the comic. Mm-hmm. It just, and I understand it's hard. It's hard to get someone with the qualifications, but it's not like there's no one.
Yeah.
And just the previous wave was not perfect, because the comics industry is not perfect. There was only one black writer on the comic of Archie Sonic before. I believe John Gray did some writing, maybe on just the off panels, but like. And forgive me if I'm forgetting anyone else, but like it wasn't a lot of representation for writers of color, and certainly women writers in that comic. Mm-hmm. For many years, it was just Romy Chasson, then Tanya Del Rio, and then eventually Alia Baker and Evan Stanley. I'm just saying. The old way wasn't perfect, but if your new way, if you doing this whole thing with just the fans running it, just the common people running it, and you still manage to basically recreate the diversity problems.
I mean, I do want to point out that, like, when it comes to hiring fans, the kind of fans you're going to see, you know, the fan artists that they see primarily and get for it are going to be whoever's popular, and quite frankly, fandom. I mean, it's society. Whiteness is going to equate to easier popularity. Because the internet's fucking racist, first of all.
lots of racism, lots of internal bias, lots of external bias, and just like implicit bias anyway, and explicit bias.
Yeah, there's a lot of bias,
and ignoring it, and not and trying not to see it doesn't make it go away either. Because this is Sonic fandom, and that still needs to be said because Sonic fandom is always like several decades like behind on various social issues. It feels like.
Mm-hmm.
When conversations move forward in other places, they are stuck in the past in Sonic.
Yeah,
That's been my experience. But yeah, that was me just talking about like I wish there were different writers. I wish there were different voices being heard in the writers' room because I love Evan Stanley. I think she's great. Ian has impressed me in the past. I tend not to like his stories and generally his stories that he likes to tell. I don't generally like them, but there's no reason that he shouldn't get to write sometimes. I don't know, but like, I just think that I think there should be more. I think there should be more.
Ian Flynn also he took over the Artsy Sonic series in 2006 around that.
Yeah.
And when I say took over, I mean took over.
Oh yeah.
Very quickly, other writers stopped being there.
Yeah.
He was writing constantly. He was writing everything. It was nothing but Ian Flynn's writing voice, with very occasionally another writer. And it wasn't until like the reboot of the comic,
Yeah.
that like it became more common for any writer who isn't Ian Flynn to get onto the book and write.
Yeah.
And like I just think after over 15 years of being such a dominating voice, such an ever present voice in Sonic Comics, he can take a step back.
Yeah. I think it's perfectly reasonable.
Because, in my opinion, he continues to just dominate the comics, even as apparently this is Evan's his own words.
His own words. But it was his issue 50, and
it was his miniseries building up to it.
And now...
his characters, Surge and Kit, who are the main stars of the show.
Mm-hmm. And now Evan's here sticking the landing, and probably going to give it this storyline probably a better ending than it was going to get.
Yeah.
But like, just I'm glad we had a good issue of this comic. I have problems with with the state of it and just the culture around it, and like I think we can do better.
Yeah.
But yeah. Unless we have anything else.
That became a big topic.
It did.
I mean, I actually, before we got onto that, I was actually going to bring up the art.
The art. Let's talk about it.
Yeah, because we talked a fair amount, I think, in both our issue 50 and 51 reviews, even though the 51 review was very short, because there was barely anything to talk about. But we talked about how the art was pretty disappointing.
Yeah.
And just bad in a number of places. And wouldn't you believe it, Evan Stanley has delivered on some really good art.
Yeah. Quite lovely.
Yeah. In particular, I want to highlight just all the stuff with Surge.
Very good drawings of Surge throughout this comic. I was just... I tend not to... I didn't have a lot of problems with how Surge gets drawn throughout this comic, but I couldn't find fault with like any moment here. Very good Surge art.
And Surge has a lot of expression work going on, whether it's with frustration or satisfaction, surprise, her more complicated emotions, with Starline and just You know, it's
Mm-hmm.
it helps a lot, and it helps to build on her character. It helps to like make all these emotional beats that we're going through as she crawls out of the trash
Yeah.
feel better. You know, you feel her despair, her frustration, her triumph.
Yeah.
Also, the panel where she's looking at the doohickey gizmo,
Mm-hmm.
she looks real cute. She's got a real cute expression on, and I like.
Yeah. It's good art.
Mm-hmm.
And I adore Evan as an artist, but I may enjoy her writing even more. And
Yeah.
see, I think she would consider that backwards. Like I think she's more confident in her art than her writing, but I really enjoy her writing voice. I really enjoy what she brings to the table with her writing.
Evan Stanley is a really, really good writer. It's, she physically can't because you can only do so much work, but I would just love to see her writing all over the place. And that would be too much work. She
Too
can't
much work,
do
yeah.
that. You know,
But
so much writing you can do. But I read a fair amount of comics. Not a ton, just because if a comic doesn't impress me, I don't continue reading it.
yeah.
And I've started and dropped a lot of comics
Mm-hmm.
in recent years just because the writing is not up to a very good quality.
Mm-hmm.
And Evan Stanley is, I think, honestly, probably one of the best writers in comic in today's modern world.
Mm-hmm.
She really impresses me. Xinlun Yang has impressed me a lot, and
Ooh, also, I know we've expressed our appreciation of Jin Lun Yang
yeah,
before, and we mentioned like, oh, it'd be fun if he was a writer on Sonic, right? Huh?
yeah,
And I remember, I think we brought this up in Evan Stanley's stream chat, and she mentioned that like, yeah, it'd be cool to have more writers. It's hard to find people who are like knowledgeable about Sonic enough and used to licensed stories. But I just want to mention, I did notice Sega's Twitter account is followed by Jin Lun Yang.
mm-hmm.
So, I don't know.
Also, he writes for superheroes.
Yeah. I think that's got enough moving parts to consider that, like...
He writes for Marvel and DC superheroes.
I think he's pretty experienced.
Yeah.
But, yeah.
Read New Superman.
I will.
Yeah, we should read that together sometime. But I'm just saying, check out New Superman. New Superman's great. Superman Smashes the Klan. It's wonderful. It's also a lot shorter, so if you want a more compact thing, then go for Superman Smashes the Klan.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Also about Evan's writing. This is an action-packed story.
Mm-hmm.
And it's part of a larger story. Larger in scale. And wouldn't you know it, Evan did great. Evan, I would say, did better than Ian.
I don't think Ian writes very good action scenes.
Yeah, but like...
I've felt for so long, and certainly the entirety of IDW Sonic, that fight scenes and action scenes are some of Ian's weakest writing, and I don't know why he keeps doing them.
So I just want to point that out, because throughout Chow Races and Badnik Bases, Test Run and Trial by Fire, there's been this very benevolent condescension that gets extended toward Evan as a writer, where it's like, oh, Ian's good for action and adventure and the big stories, and Evan's good for, the personal, character-driven little stories. You gotta be over there, Evan.
Evan, the woman writer, is great at the small little tea time stories, but we have to get the man to come and do the big action set piece.
And I call bullshit. This was action. This was better. This was better action.
Well, people will say this in Evan's stream chat when, talk about Ghosts of the Future, Evan's fan comic comes up, and, Ghosts of the Future is heavy on horror theming, and Evan's work in general is. I remember mentioning back in, 49 that, the bit of like horror-esque elements being
Yeah.
applied to Belle and the Badniks like was really up Evan's alley.
Yeah.
Um, and it is, and honestly, I really want Evan to get a chance to do a more horror story at some point, because it's really in her wheelhouse. And if you've looked at her stuff outside of the official comics, you'll know this. And like, also in Ghost of the Future, like there is Axon. It's a big story. It's pretty grand. It's dark, honestly, in a lot of it. Even after because it started when Evan was a teenager, it was very edgy,
Yeah.
very very the kind of thing that anyone when you look back at the stuff he did as a teen, you're like, oh.
But even after, it's still pretty dark, but just in a more mature way.
Yeah, the comic matured alongside Evan literally growing and adding years to her age as a person.
Mm-hmm. As one does.
Yeah, and it is not uncommon for Evan to write more action-oriented things, more dark things, more grand things, and they're all things that Evan is good at writing.
Yeah.
And pigeonholing the woman writer into only soft, emotional, wholesome stories is sexism, number one, very obviously, but like also it's just
Yeah.
it's underestimating her as a writer.
Mm-hmm.
And it's very much doing her a disservice to do that.
I think very highly of Evan as a writer, and she's doing great here.
Yeah. And I hope that, I hope that finishing off this bigger story helps for fans to finally realize that Evan can write action and big stories so that we can stop pigeonholing her.
Good God, yeah.
I will say an idea, a thought I've had in my mind, something I've kind of noticed is previously with Evan's stories, everything Evan did was pretty self-contained away, even as they crossed over into some of Ian's stuff. Like, Cyrus and Baddick Bases had some connection to Bad Guy, and then, Ian's Zeddy Hunt, terrible story series.
Just don't read it, yeah.
Yeah, it connected back into Belle, and then connected forward into Imposter Syndrome, which connected clumsily into
SU-50.
Not SU-50.
The Trial by Fire,
and then the two one-shot issues that were, kind of building up to SU-50 that Evan did.
Yeah.
But with Evan taking over at SU-52 from SU-51, this is the first time that a storyline has started with Ian, who is notably a very popular writer.
Yeah.
Regardless of quality, he's very popular, and I think his name does sell issues. And I'm wondering if it's a deliberate choice to start off a storyline with Ian and roll it into Evan.
Yeah.
To maybe get readers who maybe wouldn't pick up an issue with Evan to pick up an issue with Evan writing.
Yeah, to see the conclusion of a story.
And I'm, I don't know. I don't know how the sales data. No one does outside of, actual IDW. Don't bother trying to look it up. Between digital sales on multiple storefronts and, direct orders versus newsstand sales and all that, like, comics are sold in so many venues that no one person other than literally IDW publishing themselves and Sega could actually tell you the sales numbers, and they don't post those publicly.
No.
If someone claims to have like concrete sales numbers, they don't.
They're bullshitting you.
They might have one piece of data, but it is incomplete. And if they don't know it's incomplete, then they have not done their research. If they do know it's incomplete, then they're lying to you.
Yeah.
But I can't know the sales data because can't. They don't post it. They don't talk about it.
Yeah.
But I did definitely notice that while I was on Amazon, buying my digital copies of comics, that I noticed that physical issues of Ian's books were sold out on their pre-order.
Mm-hmm.
And Evan's weren't.
Yeah.
And so I'm curious if maybe that sales disparity was part of why this whole thing has gone the way it has, with Evan picking up after Ian started the story.
Mm-hmm.
And if that is a deliberate choice, then I hope that people who are coming in from 1551 for Ian notice that Evan's a really good writer.
Yeah. Give her a chance.
Like, I keep praising her stories to high heaven because they're great. You know, again, like, I think Evan is one of the best comics writers in the modern day, and I've read a lot of modern comics.
Yeah.
There's some that are fine. There's some that are pretty fun. There's some that I think are excellent. I've been really enjoying the recent Wonder Woman run.
Yeah.
Need to actually go back and memorize the writer there. Apologies that I've not done that, but I've been really loving what they've been doing with Wonder Woman ever since Rebirth.
Lovely.
You know, 'cause comics are great. They're fun. But then, like, there's stuff like New Superman, which I think is not New Superman. Sorry, New Superman was good. The newest Superman comic, Superman Son of Kal-El, has been just a trash fire the whole way through, in my opinion.
Yeah.
Yeah. New Superman is an old comic. The new Superman comic called something different. Ugh.
Yeah. Comic books.
Comic book.
But this one's good. You can pick it up. It's worth it, I think.
Yeah.
It's worth the $4.
Yeah. I bought it.
Yeah.
I was happy to. Digitally, of course, because I want my comics instantly. Mm-hmm. And my main thing is I want to read the comics.
Yeah.
I'm not a collector personally.
Not a collector, yeah. Not a collector. Yeah.
Though, you know, I might end up getting some of the collected versions of Evan's comics physically, just like so I could read them with my niece, because I think that could go well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah. This has been kind of a meandering conversation here at the end of this review, but
you know, it's we're in a middle point in the story.
Yeah, we are definitely we're ramping up, because Surge, after her initial failure in issue 50, which wasn't very good, now has acquired a doohickey and is going to use that doohickey to wreak some havoc.
Yeah.
And really make Whisper's day very bad.
Mm-hmm. But we'll see how that goes. Probably well, because it's Evan writing. But for now, I think that's about it. Thank you for tuning in and watching. Please be sure to follow our Twitch if you want. We try to stream on Tuesdays and Thursdays. We did stream on Tuesday last time with our Gamescom coverage. Good God. And today's Thursday. We're streaming this. And yeah. If you're watching from our YouTube VOD channel, which is linked to in our profile on Twitch, please be sure to if you haven't already, please be sure to subscribe, leave a like or comment if you want. I'm gonna try to comment after you finished watching the video. Don't just start and then
Don't try and comment on a thing halfway through. I mean, if you're here by now, then you'll have finished. But
yes,
yeah. I guess there's no point telling the people who quit halfway through and left a comment to
at the very
not
end.
do that.
Yeah.
If you quit halfway through, like, maybe say why you quit, I guess.
But yeah.
Don't be rude.
Don't be rude, please. I'm Felicia Rondo, that's close over there.
Mm-hmm.
Bye.
Bye-bye. Have a great day.
Mm-hmm.